good everyone? It's Steve from Sneaker Tech Talk, back with another video today. For today's video, I do want to take a look at the recently released Nike Foamposite Pro in the Pearl colorway. So without further ado, let's take a look at this retro. So a little bit of history with the Foamposite 1 / Foamposite Pro that I do have in hand right here. It originally released in 1997. It was designed by Eric Avar, the same designer that did design a bunch of Kobe models years later, but the shoe was designed by him, and the story kind of goes, he was at Penny Hardaway's house showing him his next model, and he had a bag on the floor that was unzipped. There was a ton of shoes in the bag, and I believe he had a royal blue pair of Foamposite 1s in the bag, and Penny was like, what are those? Like, what is that shoe? Who is it for? And what are you doing with it? And it was a sample, and Eric was like, you know, this shoe might be for Scottie Pippen, as far as what I've been told from a ton of designers at Nike. And Penny Hardaway just loved that shoe so much that he actually stopped his signature line. And in 1997, that shoe, the Foamposite 1 in the Royal colorway, was released kind of in collaboration with him. It had his 1 cent logo on the back of the shoe. And the brand, you know, the Foamposite 1 was so expensive to manufacture, just the way they had to make the shoe and the shell. So they wanted to capitalize on having another model / kind of different colorways. And that was the Foamposite Pro right here. And this Pearl colorway was one of the original colorways that did release back in 1997. I do remember seeing these on Tim Duncan's feet. They were also featured in He Got Game. Ray Allen wore this shoe in He Got Game. Jesus Shuttlesworth. So that is really cool that they were featured in that film. But overall, this is just such a classic. You know, Eric Avar has designed classic after classic, and these are one of them. One of my favorite Nike basketball shoes of all time, and in my opinion, one of, if not Nike's most advanced basketball shoes ever. Just the way that this shoe is made and the technology within it, it's absolutely amazing. So let's take a look at the Nike Foamposite Pro in the Pearl colorway. So starting with the outsole of this shoe right here, as you can see, it does have a translucent outsole, and then it does have these red pods in the heel and forefoot, and that is a herringbone pod kind of traction pattern on the bottom. Obviously, you can see that oversized swoosh on the bottom as well. This is definitely a 90s traction pattern. Whether you play indoors or outdoors, this traction pattern is great. So I have played in the Nike Foamposite 1. I've done a performance review on my channel. I will link it down below if you want to check that out. But I am kind of tinkering with the idea. Obviously, the shoe performs more or less the same, about doing a performance review on the Pro model. Sound off in the comments if you'd like to see that. But overall, the traction pattern is very nice, and I'm sure it performs great even here today because 90s traction patterns were ultra durable. One other thing I do want to say about this outsole, it is kind of a milky outsole right here. It's not quite a like super clear outsole, but overall, you know, it's a really cool look on this model. Another thing I did want to talk about is as far as how many releases we've seen of the Pearl so far. So obviously they did release in 1997. And then the original retro, I believe, was in 2002. We did see a retro of these 5 years later. And then in 2009, there was a House of Hoops exclusive Pearl retro. The upper on that shoe was kind of like a off-white or really pearlized, almost yellowish tint to the upper. And then the year later in 2010, they did release them more or less as a GR. So we did see those 2009s and 2010s kind of with the yellowish pearlized upper back then. And then in 2015, they did release as a part of a pack, I believe with the Air Hawk Flight or Flight Hawk. It was a 2-pack. You received something that looked more or less like this with more of a white upper, and then the other model in the pack. And then here we are 10 years later in 2025. We are finally getting a solo retro again of the Pearl Foamposite 1. But that's kind of the history as far as all of the release dates thus far with this model. As far as the price point for this model, these did retail for $240, $295 here in Canada. I do believe the original retail price point was like around that $170 or $180 A very expensive basketball shoe back in the day. But again, this shoe is very expensive to manufacture. Just a crazy design process for this model. But that is kind of all of the overall release dates of the Pearl this far and the price point. And then as far as the cushioning goes on this model, you do have a double lasted midsole. So everything is housed within the shoe. You have the upper that meets the outsole. So housed within the shoe, you do have a full length Zoom Air bag, which is just crazy in itself. And then under that bag, you have a really large volume Zoom Air bag. So it's double stacked in the heel. The overall comfort in the shoe, once you've broken it in and on court, is like insane. There's such a nice bounce from heel to toe. And then in the heel itself, like it's a crazy compression and impact protection at the back of the shoe. One of the best cushioning setups of all time, in my opinion. Obviously, there is some issues with like, you know, a little bit with the fit on court and such, but the overall cushioning of this shoe is superb with that full length Zoom, double stacked in the heel. Just an amazing setup back in 1997. And here we are almost 30 years later, it's still just as good today. Then as far as the fit goes with the Nike Foamposite Pros, typically I'm a 10.5 or an 11. I opted to go with a size 11 because for me, Foamposites do fit a little bit snug. So I went with the size 11. My toe is right near the end of the shoe. In my Royal Foamposite ones, I did go with an 11.5 and they fit nicely, but I wouldn't say it's a sloppy fit, but there's a little bit more room at the front. I do prefer a size 11 in this shoe. And then again with the fit, you do kind of have this inner booty right here, which is all mesh. And then you have that booty at the back and running up the side right here. You do have these two pull tabs, which are very nicely as far as ease of access and putting this shoe on foot. The eye stay is like kind of a traditional eye stay as far as what you're getting the lacing, and it is more of a customized fit because it does go really low into the toe box as far as the eye stay and the laces, which is really cool. So the overall fit, again, I would probably go up half a size or just try these on in store if you can, because for me, I find Foamposites to fit a little bit more snug than other models. And then as far as the upper or materials go on this model, so you do kind of have a mesh material running around the shoe. You have a nubuck eye stay around the laces. The tongue is very much an open cell mesh material to offer really nice breathability. And then you have some more nubuck running up the tongue right here with that white kind of strip running down the tongue. Now the material itself, I believe it is a polyurethane material that they do pour into a mold and it does harden. It is kind of stitched right here at the toe box. Wilson Smith actually did share some photos of the original kind of machine that they did use for the Foamposite ones and the Foamposite Pros. And then with this material, over time, once you break them in and it heats up, it actually does form to your foot, which is super cool. Like 30 years ago almost, this shoe was designed, and here we are 30 years later, and it's just such a crazy technology as far as what this shoe offers as far as materials go. Keep in mind, it does take some time to break in. Foamposite uppers of the past, like the originals and the first run of retros, were very hard and firm, and it took forever to break in. The newer stuff is a lot softer, but I will say this Pearl pair, it is a bit more firm on the upper. It kind of reminds me of like the 2009s and 10s as far as the firmness. It's not quite as soft as other recent retros, but I do prefer that because I like a more structured upper on my Foamposite one. But sound off in the comments what you guys think of the materials. I've always enjoyed the materials because honestly, it really doesn't crease at all other than the nubuck eye stay right here. You'll see a little bit of crease in there, but this upper doesn't crease at all. You can wear this through like basically any weather and just wipe the upper off and it's good to go. That's one great thing about Foamposites. You can wear them in rain, sleet, snow, it does not matter. And this kind of just wipes off really easy as far as this material goes. There's just a couple quick details. Obviously where this shoe does differ from the Nike Foamposite 1 is it does have a large swoosh right here on the lateral side. It has a swoosh at the back of the shoe too, whereas in the Foamposite ones, it does have a 1 cent logo. You do kind of have this little bubble right here that does say Air. On the Foamposite ones, it does have that 1 cent logo there as well. And then you have that oversized white swoosh right here. So a great choice of overall details. You have the little embroidered swoosh right here as well. Just a ton of details on this model. Just a gorgeous looking shoe. And then on the heel tab at the back, it does say Foamposite. So some really cool hits on this model. Just a gorgeous overall execution. And then really quickly, as far as the support goes on the shoe, obviously we talk about a bunch of tech, so we do have to go over the support. You do have an internal TPU heel counter at the back of the shoe right here. And then moving your way down from that, you do have a carbon fiber midfoot shank plate that does wrap up on the side. So on hard lateral cuts, that does help contain your foot, coupled with this material right here. And then you can see the carbon fiber shank plate running through the midfoot. It's a pretty wide and stable base right here. And then just, there's a ton of containment with this upper. Now, where the shoe does struggle a little bit is kind of in the fit department as well, is when you crank these laces down, like it's a snug fit, but I do find my foot to be shifting around within the shoe when I have had them on court for basketball purposes. And obviously it's a 30-year-old shoe almost, so people are probably like, why are you even playing in it? But I wanted to test them out, so keep that in mind. But overall, it is a rather supportive basketball shoe in the Nike Foamposite 1 and or Pros. So that's gonna do it for today's video on the Nike Foamposite 1 Pro in the Pearl colorway. Definitely stoked to have these back here in 2025. I was actually quite surprised on how quick these sold out. I know it's Black Friday and it's the holidays, but I was really surprised. Even here in Canada, like these flew off the shelves. I did pick up a couple pairs because this is just such a classic colorway. It was featured in He Got Game. It was worn by Timmy Duncan. It's just such a clean looking shoe. Just a shoe that I really love and I've owned in the past, and I'm stoked to have them again. So sound off in the comments. Did you guys pick these up on Black Friday? If you have you worn them yet? Definitely looking forward to getting these on foot rather soon, but sound off in the comments what you guys think of this shoe here in the Nike Foamposite Pros. But like I said, that's gonna do it for today's video. As always, if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, that would definitely help the channel a ton. And check out my Instagram over at Sneaker Tech Talk, as it is an extension of my YouTube channel with all my pickups, basketball footage, and nostalgia as a whole. Stick around for the end of the video, as I will have a portion of me having this shoe on foot. But as always, thanks for watching today's video, and until next time, peace.